Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kellow, MMR.
Well, good evening. Thank you so much for coming. And I really do appreciate it. We all do. We hope that you enjoy the show. Most importantly, we hope you learn a little bit from watching our show. We think it's a unique opportunity for you. We think it's going to be always something different on it. We try to be non-judgmental. So if anyone, regardless of your skill level, is most welcome on the show. And we hope you have a lot of fun watching the show and participating with us. So thanks again for coming. With that said, I'd like to turn to Father Ron Walters for our prayer this evening. Father Walters.
Oh God, as we express our creativity in creating in miniature the world around us, may we marvel at the beauty and genius which created the world and instilled in us a portion of your great knowledge and wisdom. Give success to the work of our hands, O God. Amen.
Father Ron, thank you so very much. I really do appreciate your participation with us in the prayer each of our shows. I do want to make a few announcements this evening before we start. First of all, you all are aware that we have a Saturday show at 1 o'clock Eastern Time called Scratch Building Workshop. Chris Blackmar, who is one fantastic modeler, and I think you'll really enjoy him, and his guest will lead you through the art of scratch building. And in my opinion, it partially is, if not mostly, an art form. So if you have the time, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, I hope you'll tune in for that scratch building workshop. We have some door prizes coming up. On June the 15th is our next one. And that's Loco-Fi is going to offer one of their control units as the door prize. They've made significant improvements in it since the last time we had them on the show. And they're going to be on the show in June. And as part of their appearance, they're offering a door prize that evening. So that'll be June the 15th. You have to be present to win. Then on July the 20th, Alan Rogers, who owns New Creations Victorian Railroad Models, is offering one of his kits. And I think that's going to be something very, very unique for you to see. And you may remember Alan was on the show not long ago showing us the new church kit that he has come out with. So that'll be on July the 20th. And again, you have to be present to win. On July the 13th, we're going to do something that we've never done before, and that's introduce a person who's going to lead us through the remote railroad operation. He has a switching layout, and he sets up various schemes on his switching layout and offers us the opportunity then to actually operate his railroad remotely with our cell phones or iPads or whatever we have, and try to solve the switching puzzle that he has created that evening. So I think that's going to really be something different, and it'll introduce you to at least what may be for the future of us, of many of us, a way that we can operate a person's layout without ever leaving our home from anywhere in the world. And I think that's an exciting opportunity for model railroaders, particularly if you're into a switching kind of layout, because it's something unusual. And as far as I know, he has the only one that I'm familiar with or that I've even heard about anywhere in the world. So I really do appreciate him joining us and allowing us to participate with him on his railroad. If you have some time, I hope that you'll agree to volunteer and help us produce these shows. We are really in need of more volunteers. We're doing more things, and we need more volunteers in order to accomplish what we're trying to do. We think that you're interested because we're gaining viewers, and we're gaining people that are saying things about the show to other people. All of that to me is favorable. And I think that if you can give us a little bit of your time, it would be most appreciated. Thank you. I also hope you'll participate in our build-alongs. We have a new one starting tonight with Coarse doing his Conowingo model new kit of the Kellow trolley station. Thank you so much for naming it after me, Chris. I really do appreciate it. I've heard nothing but good things about the kit so far. And I wish you the best with coming out with this kit in your company. Chris will start that discussion this evening. Then on June the 1st, Bill Banner, who owns Banner Model Works, is going to start a build along of our first ON30 kit. And this is going to be one of his cabooses. So I hope that you'll be here for that one. I hope that you'll buy his kit also, because it's, like I say, there's an awful lot of interest, I know, in ON30, and Bill makes some fantastic models. We've got a bunch more on our website that you can look at. We've got them now lined up through December, through the end of this year. And I think I can't tell you how many more there are, but some of our shows are almost full of different segments of build-alongs because they seem to be so popular. And we have manufacturers who are interested, as well as modelers who are coming to me now and saying that they want to be one of the builders on our show and be able to help other people improve their skills by learning how to build some of these models. So all that is favorable. And I think that's partially the reason why we're having so many of these being able to be scheduled ahead of time. And you can find out all about them on our website, newtracksmodeling.com. Our next My Build is June the 29th, and the sponsor for our My Build is Dan and Amy Doherty's company, Model Railroad Resource, LLC. So we run the video.
Welcome to the world of scale, O&S railroading. We are your resource for all O&S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale Resource and the S-Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
I really do appreciate Dan and Amy wanting to be a sponsor for our My Build segments. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chris Coarse, who is the moderator for these segments. Chris, welcome. I think you're muted.
Yeah, that helps, doesn't it? All right, let me get to this. All right. The My Build featuring you. Your next My Build, or the next My Build, is June 29th. To participate, email me photos to railrunner130@hotmail.com. Doesn't have to be a finished model. Could be something you have an issue trying to figure out, or something you're extremely proud of, or maybe you need help with a particular item, or you just want to show off something cool that you found. So either way, please let us know or drop us an email with those photos, and we'll put you on. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jim.
Okay. And Chris, I really am glad that you're back. Phil did a great job last week while you were gone, but it's nice to have you back and running this show.
Thanks, Jim. It's good to be back. For those that don't know, Columbus is actually a pretty up and coming little town there. I was pretty impressed by it. So if you have the opportunity, go.
Well, thanks again for doing this, Chris. I also want to mention that everybody that does participate has their model and a description of their model that they show published in one of my next articles in one of the 2 magazines that Dan and Amy publish, either S-Scale Resource or O-Scale Resource. So if you are interested in that, I hope that may be an additional incentive for you to want to participate in our My Builds. Keep in mind, the reason that we do the My Builds is not only to give you some ability to show us what you're doing, but also to use what you're doing as encouragement for other people to start building models. And maybe they want to duplicate what you're doing or see if they can change it around to suit their taste. But I really think that seeing what other people are doing can be a real motivational factor for getting more people involved in building models. And that's one of the main reasons why we do these shows. So with that said, now I would like to turn to Bob Farquhar, who is filling in for Paul Thompson, who is still kind of under the weather this week, for our quick tip of the evening. Bob, welcome.
Okay, bear with me because I'm now on a laptop that I rarely use, and my Wi-Fi on my main computer just went tonight, 2 minutes after the show started. Anyway, so let me do the screen share here. Hopefully this will work. Come on here. Come on. There we go. Right there. So this is going to be about window glass. And why do you want to use a real glass, or how do you do that? And come on here. Oh, there we go. So the main reason is that plastic, the clear plastic you get in most kits and that, they tend to warp over a period of time. And the only thing about the glass is that they're difficult to work with. You need a special cutter, and you end up breaking a lot of glass. But there's an example of plastic on the windows. You can see the warping that's happening on the windows here. You get a reflection of light off there, but there is no glint to it. It's real glass has like a glint to it. So there's 2 parts to a microscope slides. One's a slide and one's a cover glass. So the slides are fairly thick, and there's an example of this is one of the manufacturers I deal with, and then you just cut it with a tungsten carbide tip, and then you put in your windows and that. This is a lot thick. These are about 5/1000 of an inch thick, these cover pieces. So there's an example. If you're not going to detail in the inside of a structure, I use a thicker glass. That's it there. Come on, where's my pointer? There it is. So this is an example. When you saw back here, this part of it is like a white covering over there. You can actually scrape that off with a single edge razor blade, and you get clear glass again. But I use that every now and then to put in some windows. There's one example here. And that I use them when there's no detail in the inside. Otherwise, you use the cover glass, they're real thin stuff. There's an example of real glass. There's a glint to it. There's another example right here. So in case you hear people talk about using real glass for windows, I prefer it myself. And so there's maybe we could use that in the future. Back to you, Jim.
Let me ask you a question. When you measure and you cut the real glass,
Yeah,
do you try, is it a precision cut to fit within the window frame or
I
just
go, no, I go outside the frame and then put little gobs of glue on each of the four corners. So just to hold it in place, because you don't notice the glass that does not have to be right to the back of the window itself, because only like 1/16 of an inch at most it would have. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, the glass you can get from medical supply places and as well, just so
Okay.
you know.
Where do you get yours?
A medical supply place. I got it again from a place in Toronto. Got a place in Kingston here now. So
Oh, okay. Well, thanks so much, Bob.
okay.
Well, now I'd like to turn to our first build along of this evening. And this one is going to be by Chris Coarse, who owns Conowingo Models. And it's his new kit, the Kellow Trolley Station. Chris, welcome.
Thanks again, Jim. All right, let's go ahead and find the share screen. All right. No peeking or no cheating here. All right. Build along of the Conowingo Models Kellow Station in both HO and O scales. There's still time to order. I still have some in stock. So go to conowingomodels.com and use Jim HO in the discount section. You'll get the HO scale kit at a discount, or Jim O for the O scale kit. And that is not valid on any other items, and it's good through June 15th, which will be the last build. Excuse me. As you're seeing in the upper left corner there, the gray and red building is actually the HO scale version, and the white and yellow is the O scale version. I was actually pleasantly surprised at how that yellow came out, because with yellow, it's one of those colors you're never quite sure. All right. And then, so there's a couple more glory shots of it. All right, so we're going to start out, there are episode summaries. We're going to start out in episode 1. We'll do research, planning, cut out the parts, bracing, and then painting. And there's actually going to be a bit of homework on this one. It'll slacken off a little bit. This is pretty much the heaviest episode. In episode 2, we cover window and door prep, shingling the roof, and then end wall assembly. And then in episode 3, we do the main building assembly and adding the roof. And then in episode 4, we finish it up with finishing touches and details. So again, in episode 1, we're going to research and plan our colors, cut out the parts, and then organize the colors by your color choice, parts by your color choice. Then we'll move on to bracing, and then some parts prep, and do some painting. As a warning, a lot of these pictures are of the pilot models, and so if you end up with if you are assembling a kit, the parts that you are looking at in the kit may not look exactly like they do in these photos. That's because as I went along and figured out how I was going to build this thing and found errors in the kit, I improved on them. So what you'll have is the new and improved version, where the pictures may not actually be that way. And some of the photos are actually of a slightly different build. And so you go, wait a minute, mine doesn't look like that. Don't worry about that. Don't panic. Just follow along. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is research. This building is fictional, so you have a number of choices. You could do it for your chosen railroad. It could be for a fictional railroad. What I found works best is choosing a minimum of 2 colors, or 3 primary colors. That is for, and by primary, I'm not talking blue, yellow, and red. I'm talking about, well, you could use those colors, but I'm talking about first, second, and third color choices for how you're going to do this. Because if you notice, a lot of these buildings on here are set up that same way. And then we're not going to cover it, but something you need to think about in the research phase is, are you going to light it, or are you going to do something a little different? Are you going to modify it in some way? So those are all things you need to do in the research phase. All right, next up, we get into cutting out the parts. And what you want to do is you want to categorize the parts by the color that they're to be painted. You'll see in the bottom, you've got the bracing with your strip wood. You've got your all of your bracing. We decided to, you'll notice that there is a some of the decorative trim is also in this category. And don't forget about the feet down below. Now, one thing that that you're going to see as you're cutting these parts out, those two parts on the left, first of all, one of them, it lost a little bit of the top to it. If that happens, don't worry about it. But what you don't want to do is there are two cleats on the bottom of the feet. And then also those two pieces on the far left there, those will also have cleats in them. Basically what you're going to do is when you, after you have this kit assembled, you're going to drop it into place on that concrete pad, and it's going to, it should fit right snug in there. You've got your ridge beam, which it's numbered, but it does not need to be painted. Of course, you've got your walls, and you want to put all those together. Your gingerbread and your trim there. You want to put that stuff together, assuming that you want to paint those all the same color. And then the roofing, you could end up with either 2 or 4 pieces of roofing. I think we're going to go over that here in a minute. And then this is the O scale. Yeah, you also want to cover your wrought iron finial. That can be categorized separately. Be careful with the wrought iron piece because it's fragile. I've actually destroyed the one on the O scale kit about 3 times now. And luckily I've been able to glue it back together again, but don't do as I do. Just be careful with it. And also don't forget about your doors and windows and how you want to categorize those. All right, so then you're going to start out with the brace the long pieces of the gingerbread trim. The reason we're going to do this is because you don't want to confuse for the O scale kit. It's got 1/8 inch strip wood that is, it's got 2 pieces that are longer than the rest of them. And you want to go ahead and put those 2 together so that they don't get lost in the shuffle. But anyway, you want to also do that with the HO scale kit, although it's 1/16. So you want to glue it as I've shown in this picture here. Try to do a little bit better job to get the top snugged up. Excuse me. Next, we're going to trim the board and batten. Can't really tell in these photos, but what you want to do is use an example door and window, and also one of those pieces of the triangle shaped gingerbread to outline on the outer walls where those contact the board and batten. Then you're going to want to use, I think it's an X-Acto number 17 straight blade or something like that to cut off the batten at that point. So basically what's going to end up happening is the doors and walls, or the doors and windows, sit flat on the walls without any obstructions. I actually tried it with my regular number 11 blade, and that's what you're looking at here. But if I did a little research and I found if you use the number 17 or basically a straight flat edge, it'll work a lot better. Next up, we're going to do bracing on the number 3 wall supports. If you notice, all the wall supports are numbered, and also the ridge beam is numbered. You're going to need that information later. So what you're going to do is you're going to add the feet, and then again, notice the cleats. You want those feet added into the number 3s at a 90-degree angle. You want to add the piece of strip wood onto both sides, and on one piece, leave room on the outside for the board and batten. So you're going to want to basically take that triangle. You see the yellow piece over here on the left. You're going to want to make sure that is going to be able to sit flush with that piece of bracing. And then with these, with the feet and where they contact that strip wood, you're going to want to add a little bit of wood filler or something in there. And you might want to sand it down too, to basically make that line disappear. I didn't do a very good job of that on this one, but learn from my mistakes. So that covers that. Basically what that'll do is it'll add rigidity to those wall braces, because that 1/16 basswood it'll just curl and do all kinds of other weird things if you don't. All right, now onto wall bracing. This is an example of where I use some prototype items for the photos. Basically, what you're going to want to do is go 1/8 inch, take a piece of 1/8 inch across the bottom of both the HO and the O scale outer wall, long walls. You're going to cut a door opening in the O scale wall because it won't fit. The door won't fit in there with that piece of 1/8 inch going all the way across. You may do it as required for HO. I think you can. I think the HO scale kit will the door will sit flush on that. So you may want to experiment with that and see if that's what you need to do or not. Then you want to take a piece of 1/8 inch across the top of the windows for the O scale only, and it'll be 1/16 across the top for the O scale only. You don't really see it on this picture at all, but there are some cutouts on the top. You want to stay below those cutouts because you're eventually going to put bracing in there. You're going to want to leave a 1/16 inch gap on both ends. And if you see the picture on the left, you'll see why. Because basically what's going to happen is those the side walls are going to fit into the end walls just so. And you'll want to do that for both sides. Don't worry about the end pieces right yet. Next, you're going to want to prepare the roof wood. If you have some of that scribed roof, that did not break apart, then what you're going to want to do is there's a scribed mark on each of those pieces. You're going to want to transfer that mark onto the opposite side and mark that line all the way down, because what you're going to want to do is take the on the piece of construction paper that you were provided, there's 2 shorter pieces. What you're going to want to do with those is you're going to want to glue them down, because basically what you're doing is you're forming a hinge, but do not glue across the middle where that line is. So you want to do that. You want to center it, and that way it'll form the hinge when the time comes. All right, so we'll move on to our paints. The common paints that we used are in the middle. For the concrete, we used the True Color paint, which I really like it. It's a neat paint. TCP 4006, which is concrete. We just used regular old Rust-Oleum for the flat white for the bracing. One thing I did try, and I'm really not all that happy with it quite yet, is tried Mission Models metallic burnt iron, and it seems to go on too thin. So be careful with that. It's a nice, I think if you get enough of it on there, it does a nice job, but so far I haven't liked it too much. And of course we have our trusty Hunterline raw sienna. Excuse me. And then I just used basically your typical Walmart apple barrel or Craft Smart paints. For the O scale, I used that yellow, that bright yellow. And then of course with the HO scale, I used Flamencio red, and I forget what that gray is. Hang on, let me see if I can see it. It says elephant gray. So those are the colors we used for all of these kits. I forgot to put the Hunterline driftwood and apple barrel black on there. All right, so next up, we're going to do some painting. You see the O-scale kit on the left. That's actually white paint. I'm not quite sure. I guess it's the lighting. That's why it came out looking gray like it did. But I put everything down on some tape that I folded against itself, and gave it a good spray, and it came out pretty decent. With the roofing, we hit both sides of that with that Hunterline raw sienna. Make sure you hit both sides. It'll help with warping. Put a lot of weight on that thing, and that should help out keeping it from warping. We painted the rest of the parts by hand, and you can see, if you take a look on the picture on the right side there, the HO version, I only painted the exposed bracing, and I think that'll cut down on the warpage also. All right, so let's see. Here we are up to, remember to paint using those color categories. I think that helps out a lot. That's why this slide is in there. You'll see it down at the bottom, the concrete pad. That's only got 1 or 2 coats of that concrete on it. One thing you want to keep in mind, you see those squares on there. Those squares are the interior of the station. So if you want to put down a tile floor, let's say you want to put down a checkered pattern, you could, or you could make it a marble floor or something along those lines. But that gives you the ability to do it should you decide to take advantage of that. All right, let's see. Like previously mentioned, painted concrete, and talked about the tile flooring. On the left photo here, you'll see where I missed the edges. When you paint the walls, make sure you get all of the walls. You can go back later if you miss it. That's what I ended up doing, was going back with a much smaller brush and dabbing paint into there. But be careful of that. All right. So this is the end of episode 1. Your homework is make sure you got those braces done, and then make sure you have all of your parts painted. And of course, if you haven't done so already, do your research. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Chris. What do you think about using primer on the wood pieces before you paint? Do you do that?
I don't, but I think in some situations where you've got white, sometimes that helps. The one area where a primer does seem to really be needed are on windows. One thing I tried is, instead of using an actual paint for the primer, because the doors are gray anyway, is put a coat of dull coat on there and then paint it. And I think that seems to help out a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Anyone else?
Yeah, Chris, what's the footprint of the building?
Oh, let's hang on here. Let me go find out. Which one are you talking? The HO or the O?
HO.
All right, hang on. So this is, it's about a little less than 2.5 inches wide and about 5.5 inches long. And it's still in one piece.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any more questions? All right, I guess I'll turn it back over to Jim then. Thank you.
I've got one question here that I want to ask, but not to Chris necessarily. The last time Chris was on and had one of his models that we did a build along with, we had one modeler that was scratch building the model in N-scale. Is anybody scratch building this one in N-scale? Well, that answers that question. All right, moving right along. Next up is Phil Edholm. And Phil has agreed to be the person in charge of the new series that we started called NMRA Clubs and Local Divisions. And I'm pleased to have the NMRA be a sponsor for this segment of our show. And Phil, if you'd like to run their video.
Welcome to model railroading. And as much fun as model railroading already is, there is one way you can make it even more fun and get even more out of it. And that's by becoming a member of the National Model Railroad Association, the world's largest model railroading organization. The NMRA is devoted to the development, promotion, and enjoyment of the hobby. In fact, the NMRA has been setting industry standards for model railroading for over 80 years. From standardizing track gauges and coupler heights in the early days, right up to defining the specifications for today's digital layout command control systems, the NMRA has always been at the forefront of advances in the hobby, establishing conformity and compatibility among model railroading products. Not many other hobbies can say that. The NMRA has 18 worldwide regions, which include North America, Australia and New Zealand, Britain, and Europe. These regions have annual conventions where modelers can swap ideas, tour prototypical industries and railroads, see model railroad layouts built by other members, and get to know fellow modelers from a wide geographical area. And on a more local level, the NMRA has over 150 local divisions all across North America. These are groups of modelers in nearby cities and counties who get together regularly for scheduled events, seminars, how-to clinics, or visits to other members' layouts. Chances are there's a regular NMRA division event not very far from where you live. What it really comes down to is the fact that the NMRA is people just like you. Model railroaders sharing interests, knowledge, experience, and information with other modelers in their own community, in their own region, and across the country. It's the spirit of fellowship that makes the NMRA such an important part of the hobby for each of its members. Plus, the NMRA's national organization offers members the opportunity to travel to a major city for the annual national convention, where they can meet and learn from recognized experts in the hobby, see top-of-the-line model railroad layouts, tour rail-served industries and famous railroad locations, and even purchase the newest hobby merchandise at the world-class National Train Show. Add a subscription to the monthly NMRA magazine to your membership, and you'll get the latest model railroading news, along with helpful construction articles and stories of what other NMRA members around the country are doing. Your membership in the National Model Railroad Association gives you access to some of the most innovative people in the hobby, who can help you create your vision of a model railroad, who can help you learn new techniques and information one-on-one. By taking part in the NMRA's Achievement Program, you can grow your skills as a model railroader, advancing through the steps that lead to achieving Master Model Railroader certification. And with the fellowship of other modelers in your local division and region, you can share knowledge and accomplishments. The NMRA is people. The NMRA is local, regional, and national activities. The NMRA is one of the world's largest railroad libraries. Its online archives, liability and collection insurance, even discounts. In short, the NMRA is the best way to get more out of your hobby. By joining the National Model Railroad Association, you'll get a first-class ticket to the most enjoyment you can get out of model railroading. The NMRA. We make it more fun.
I really appreciate the NMRA wanting to sponsor this segment of our show for us, because to me, the local division, the local clubs, this is where you get one-on-one mentoring. And there's no better way to learn how to build a model than by having somebody, in effect, become holding your hand and helping you through the parts of the model process that you may be having trouble with. So, Phil, I will turn this over to you, sir.
Thanks very much, Jim. Appreciate it. We have a great guest tonight. Robert Freestein has joined us. Robert's actually a California expatriate living in Florida, but I think he's become accustomed, he said. So it's kind of interesting. He's been there for, I guess, about 4 years. And it's interesting to talk. I think it's going to be very interesting to talk to him about what he's observed they're doing that has been, from his perspective, interesting, and how they're driving value within the division and the region. And also the opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the national stuff. So Robert, why don't you tell us just first a little bit about your involvement in the hobby personally and with the NMRA in your division, region, and nationally?
Well, I started about 2016. Never knew about NMRA or any of these modeling clubs in California. Vanpool cohort introduced me to a club called Short Track, which is out of Vista, California, and they're N scale. And I got involved being a director for the Pacific Southwest region in an NMRA. I wanted a hobby, so when I retire, I like building, dioramas and things like that. And it was a good outlet for me to do that. Little by little, I saw that there's needs for people to participate, like your club started. I try to remember the kid's name. During the pandemic, introduced me to your organization, coming out of Texas, and Pete Steinmetz. One thing leads to another in this organization, so I got involved. I figure if I don't get involved, I can learn as well. Just a whole bunch of group of nice people here. So when I moved from California to Tallahassee, I ended up going to some of the workshops that the Sunshine region has in the Northern Division in Jacksonville. And one thing led to another. Now I'm a Northern Division superintendent. I'm also part of the tech team for NMRA. Also involved with Big Bend Mile Railroading Association out of Tallahassee. So I'm on all levels of modeling.
That's great. So Robert, if you look at the division, what are you doing what are the things you're doing that are engaging modelers and helping them improve the way they model?
I'm really trying to get everybody together. My division is, from one end to another, is about a 4-hour drive. So everybody's isolated in their own little clubs in Jacksonville, Gainesville, and Tallahassee. So I'm trying to get the workshops to be all 3 areas. So 3 times a year, I'll have 3 different workshops, so in each area. So the people who cannot travel to Tallahassee or cannot travel to Jacksonville, they can come to the one in Gainesville, et cetera, et cetera. One of the key things up here, though, is a gentleman named Andy Zimmerman. He's been president for Big Bend Mile Railroad Association. Their club puts on a train show every year, the 3rd weekend or the last weekend in June. This coming June, which is about 4 weeks away now, the 25th and 26th, there'll be the 31st train show. So I'll have a workshop during the train show, so the members can come buy trains, see what layouts are, and also come to our workshop for the Northern Division is one of the mechanisms I'm using. Jacksonville, the club out there, they use Zoom a lot. So I participate in their Zoom meeting. Andy Zimmerman for the Big Bend has a Zoom meeting, so I participate in that. So I'm reaching out to club members on to make it easier for them to participate in their own area without traveling too far.
So when you typically do workshops, you're doing those are then some clinics and that kind of thing, or do you focus on building a specific model, or is it bring your model and get help, or?
During the workshop, we incorporate all three. Bring your own model. We'll help them with it, with ideas and all that, with loads or something like that from experienced modelers in our clubs or in the different areas, I should say. I inherited that when I moved here. So it's not something I created. I'm just making sure that it's continuing on.
Do you find it easy to find clinicians and people to get involved and do that? Or are there things you have to do to get people involved?
You have to reach out. Like you're doing here, you say earlier during your meeting here, you said, is there someone that wants to bring something forward? That's what I do. I find out if you ask someone, they'll do it. But if you don't ask, nothing happens. I always get a wind of somebody that has a talent in a certain way. I get them to present what they know, and one thing leads to another.
I think it's that compendium of skills that at the local level becomes so interesting that if and I think that's one of the challenges we have is how do you build that knowledge base locally and retain it? Are you doing things to kind of build databases and retain information for, where layouts are, who does clinics, that kind of thing?
That's one method. I came from a group, like I said, in California. It was San Diego County, part of it. PSR goes into LA County, San Bernardino, Arizona, and all that. But the San Diego County, every month they went to a different modeler's house, played with their railroad, got people to come join in, doing op sessions and all that. And then the board will have their meeting during that event. So every month we met as a board and also traveled throughout San Diego County to different railroads, hobbyists. We're very fortunate. We have Balboa Park that has 4 clubs in that area. Vista, which is the northern part, is owned by Oceanside. Oceanside has their layout, people's homes. It was a round robin that we would do. And you never travel any more than an hour to an hour and a half from one end of the county to the other. I'm trying to incorporate that here in this larger area.
So just out of curiosity, when you go to someone's layout, I mean, the number of potential participants, I would think, is somewhat limited. Did you find that it was the same people? If you had 12 events around your division, was it the same people that came to those, or did you get a lot of variation that in, this layout you got, 3 or 4 people that kind of went to all of them, but there were 8 people that were more local? Or was it kind of more just a single group of folks that always was part of this?
It's a combination of both. And what I mean by that is there was a nucleus that went around to all of them. And I'm talking about maybe 20 of us would go to all of them. But you also find people in the neighborhood at someone's home that they'll say, oh, that's my neighbor. And they bring their children over and they would see, oh, what great layout in the garage or in the upper room. And they would get involved that way. And we find new members that way. It was very successful there. Here in Florida, because there's no clubhouse building in our northern division, except for Jacksonville, people have portable units, because they go to churches and have their meeting at churches. So it's a little different dynamic, but the principle is the same: is get people involved, come to meetings, talk to people. The train show, brings in a lot of new members every year to.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. One of the things that I think there's kind of two sides to what as an organization we need to do. I mean, clearly one side is what do we do to support members? But I think the other thing is how do we present to the model railroaders that are not members the value of being part of the NMRA? And I think the challenge there is that you meet model railroaders not in the public, but at events that kind of attract them. And a train show is a great example of that. I mean, it attracts the public that are not necessarily going to join the NMRA, but it does attract model railroaders who might not be part of an organization and find it to be interesting. Is that what you find?
Yes, and then you wean them into the NMRA. If a person is not ready yet to home in on their skills on modeling, but they just like to run trains, NRA may not be for them. But if they want to home in on their modeling skills and all that, then NMRA is the way to go, especially with the AP program. That's why I chose to go for the AP. I'm going for my MMRA mass modeler right now. I gained 3 other people because I'm doing it. They say, well, we'll join you, Bob. And we're now 3 of us going for our journey.
That's good. That's good. That's an interesting thought process if you can get a group of people together to kind of proceed through that. So, one of the challenges is bringing people in that are at a point in their lives and modeling lives. That's an interesting journey, but kind of driving that together might be helpful where you provided mentoring in those areas as well.
Yeah.
Do you have someone in the division that helps with that? That's already, an MMR that's mentoring you guys on how to get through the process?
Yes and no. And what I mean by yes and no is we don't have anyone in the Northern Division who are master modelers. We have some in different Western Division, Eastern Division. We're broke up into 4 different ones that will help us. But because of Zoom and being online a lot, they are always willing to help us from afar. There's a gentleman out of Texas named Speed. He's always willing to help. A lot of master modelers are always willing to help me or anyone else with a problem or with a hurdle. I heard about your group, like I said earlier, and I find people like yourself looking at these videos, listening to your talks, helping me out. When I get done, I learn that different technique. I noticed that Clark from Canada is signed in on the chat. I met him in California when he was vice president of NMRA, and gave a talk, and he also motivated me. And that's Clark Koenig.
Clark Koenig, yep, exactly. Well, that's good. I think that's, motivating people is always interesting. It's a challenge to not have the MMR become a closed club, but rather an open invitation to join and get through the process. So I think that's a great point. So one thing that is becoming, I think, interesting is, do you see the things you do in workshops and some of those skills changing when you've got so much information on the internet now? I mean, we've really, I think, started before the pandemic, but obviously has exploded during the pandemic, the amount of information you can get. Do you see that changing what you do locally to engage modelers and making it more about real focus on skills and hands-on, or do you still see a lot of people doing slide presentations as a way of, having a clinic?
It depends on your age and how you're encompassing the new technology. And what I mean by that is, how many people know how to do video cameras And so when they try to show their layout during a Zoom meeting, the camera technique sometimes is desirable, but they're doing the best that they can. So it distracts from learning something or seeing something. Okay. It's trial and
So
error.
what you're saying is when the best that you can is basically a roller coaster ride through somebody's layout, it's not conducive to a really great experience. And I tend to agree with you. That's why one of these we've tended to do is ask people just take a bunch of pictures and do it as a presentation. It's almost a better experience that way. You're right.
Yeah.
You can't do the same. A virtual layout's never the same as actually going to a layout and being in it and seeing the details. I think that's a really important value.
I agree with you 100% on that. And I'm also saying that I'm meeting you. We talked a couple times on the phone. You invited me into this. It's this type of communication. You become friends first, like meeting someone on a golf course for the first time. Can I join your threesome to make it a foursome? This is the first way to reach out. You get to know the person as a person and see what talents they are and see what they want and try to guide them through it. I look forward every month to meet the group here in Big Bend. One of our members every Sunday has an open house from 1 o'clock until 4. They do the same thing in Jacksonville. They do the same thing in Gainesville. It's a club-like, and their people talk to each other. And then someone says, well, are you going to go to such and such as event? And then also you get more people. So it's word of mouth, and it's being friendly and not pushy.
Right. That's good. That's great. Well, why don't I open it up and see if there's anyone in the New Tracks community that has any questions. Go ahead and just open it up for everyone. Any questions, comments? I'll check in the chat. I'm just amazed that Clark has nothing to say.
He's probably not there.
He's there. He's texting me in a private chat.
I am here.
There.
I am here. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Hey, good, Clark. Glad to see you on the line. Haven't talked to you for quite a while.
Yeah, I think the last time you and I had a little discussion about track work and fast tracks.
That's right. And guess what? I'm stymied on one of the turnouts, but I'll get through it. But yeah, Clark got me into building my layout using fast track, build my own track, and I'm fascinated by it.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, well, what we can do, we'll maybe assign some time and we can do a Zoom call and work on it.
I would appreciate that, Clark.
No
and you're
problem.
looking good. Did you lose some weight?
Yeah, I bought bigger shirts.
Ah, hey. Yeah, Clark. We first met when we came out to one of the conventions. I think the one you went to when we first met was in 2016 over in Culver City. And I drove you along the coastline when we were going to some sort of dinner at a private club's train layout.
Yeah, we went by sort of your old stomping grounds, and we talked about the beaches, and then we went out for a fabulous dinner. Yeah. Yes,
and then Clark gives a great clinics for working with the masters. That's another aspect, going to conventions, going to different things.
Cool.
Bob, let me ask you a question. How do you fund the activities that you do for your division?
Well, right now, because most of it's Zoom, there's no cost involved. But what we normally do is per meeting, we charge $15 for snacks, for the rental of the room, things like that. It's a flat out fee here in Tallahassee. But the ones in California, there was no cost involved with anything. You pay your membership dues, and it was all supplied by the club. The way they made their money was during the conventions when they have it in their own little area.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you.
Well, super. Well, Robert, I wanted to thank you and really appreciate it. Lots of great info. And we actually connected also on discussing some things around calendaring, which I think is an important area to look at. So we'll have that conversation going forward. And I think that's kind of the interesting thing is that it's a lot of this is just making those relationships and building them. And I think there's something that we kind of may have all missed in this, which is that it all got a lot easier now with things like Zoom. And what we're doing tonight, we can extend that kind of knowledge base and connections. And, if someone else has something specific, they can come back and ask. So, Robert, again, thanks very much.
I just posted in my on the chat room my email address. So anyone wants to reach out to me, please do. I'm all for it, and I'm so proud of you guys having Gordy last month. You had him on.
Yep.
Yep.
I talk to Gordy every so often, and like Clark and all that. You guys are just doing a great job on your end. I do appreciate you letting me be part of your new tracks modeling.
Super,
Well,
Robert.
let me ask you this. Since you're part of the NMRA technical group, how about becoming a part of our technical group? Because we need some volunteers.
Well, just talk to me, not now, but call me, or I'll put my cell phone number in also.
Do you have, can you get that for me, please, Phil?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have it already, I think.
Okay, if you'll send me and Bob, I'll give you a call. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how, see, this is what I'm talking about, how you do it on the local level.
Absolutely.
If you don't ask, nothing happens, okay?
Right.
And if you don't have a platform to meet people, it doesn't happen. It just doing small increments and it'll grow on you very quickly.
Well, let me ask you this. Now that Bob has volunteered so graciously, how many more of you out there would like to talk to me on the telephone after this is over and consider volunteering too? Because we really need some help, guys. Anyone else? Like Bob says, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Well, Jim, I want to thank, I think that's a good point to stop and thank Bob again. We really appreciate it. And let's all give a big hand for Robert.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bob, thanks so much.
You're very welcome. And thanks for having me.
And Phil,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phil, for doing this evening. I really appreciate it.
I'll just give you a little update. I was talking to Gordy tonight. He went home from the US, back home to Scotland, to a family infected with COVID.
You got to be kidding.
Nope. His wife and kids, I guess mostly the wife, they've got COVID. So he's stuck in the train room.
Oh, that's too
What a
bad.
horrible way to die in the train room.
That is really too bad.
I just got back from France, so I went to Paris for 10 days. I just got back last week. Came back on Thursday, so it's scary out there.
Yes, it is. Thanks so much, Bob. And Phil, thanks again.
Thanks, John. Back to you.
So now let's turn to Martin Brechbiel. You may know that one of the segments that we like to have is building old kits. Some of us remember them like they were yesterday and enjoy seeing them built. Well, Martin has built some for us before, and he has another one for this evening. So Martin, welcome.
Evening, Jim. We'll see how this works. See if I know what I'm doing or not here. Come on. Hey, that looks like it worked.
Yes, sir.
Frightening. So this is the third time I've done this. And I had two choices, and I'm Not sure if I made the right one or not. They both had their curious challenges and difficulties. That's what's to be expected with some old kits. Some are better than others. So this is a pretty straightforward one, though, and I'm pretty sure Jim's actually familiar with it. He may have actually even built one. We got an old All Nation
Absolutely.
IT traction 41-foot 5-inch box trailer.
Absolutely.
It's a Zimmer. That was actually made by Zimmer, and All Nation sold them. And you can see this says it's got a railroad roof with flat ends, outside hung doors. So I can tell you right now, you have all kinds of variations were possible. There were round ends, there were inside hung doors, and they mixed them all up. You could get this kit in various incarnations and versions. This is kit number A150. And you see the box has had a few mishaps, but it's fairly solid. And on the surface, everything did seem to be there. And so we've got a nice milled floor. So we don't have to build a floor, which is nice. We have a railroad roof, which has some scribbling on. So somebody had already started and played with it a little bit. And there's a pair of curved ends. Oh, wait a minute. The box said flat ends. So we're already off to a flying divergence in reality. The box says one thing, the kit's got different parts. Okay, so what? We built it anyhow. Somebody scribed some nice curves on the roof, so you know where those ends go. And I don't know if this has worked. There's a little bit of a milled edge here, so those end blocks actually fit up tight against that edge. So this is going to go together fairly well. One hopes. Here's the siding. It's plywood. It's fairly thick too. We're talking like, I don't know, it's more than 1/8 of an inch. It's quite a bit more actually. And it's scribed on one side. And you have the plans. Your plans show A160 and A150. It's definitely not A160 because I think that's actually an inside door reefer or ice car. So you've got instructions for 2 different kits in the same set of instructions and drawings. That makes things interesting. Obviously enough, we have scribed siding. Yes, those are the ends and the doors. Never would have figured that out without reading what's written on them. This one's broken. That's okay. That's what glue is for. But yeah, these ends, they have to get wrapped around those curved end blocks. So you got to be a little careful with this stuff. It's not 1/32 thick. It's not 1/16. It's somewhere in between. It's whatever was custom built or manufactured for Zimmer in these kits. It's a little fragile, but it'll bend. What else we got? Well, we got bolsters, big Zamek cast bolsters. So you got to draw those out and tap them right now before you do anything, because doing it later is, after you put them on the car, is no fun. We have roof filler and floor filler. We'll actually make use of that. We got 4 door runners. We got some tin plated steel. I'm not even sure what this piece was for. We're going to use this piece for sure. Got some quarter round. We got a piece of angle, which is actually broken, which is unfortunate, but we're going to need that. Some wire, which is really hard to use because it's got to be straightened out. But I think they gave you curved wire because that's what they had and it would fit in the box. But it does make it a little bit of a challenge when you have to straighten out. That's not 33 thousandths. It's actually heavier. It's closer to 38 thousandths, almost 40 thousandths brass wire. So it's fairly stiff stuff. Okay, there's your instructions, step by step. Well, sort of. It's fit, glue, and shape. Okay, whatever that means. You sort of have to interpret your instructions a little bit, and They cover multiple kits. So there's kit 155, 160, and you're building 150. So you got to be kind of discreet on what you're skipping over, leaving out, or actually attending to. And you have to think a little bit. Yeah, I think I probably do need to do that step. You'll find out later if you didn't. But it's your kit, it's your car. If you make changes, that's up to you. There's nothing inscribed in stone that says you must do it exactly as written. So so we've got diagrams for the A150 and the A155. The A160 is over the other side of the page, but so we're going to build the A150, and that shows rounded ends. Okay, so what? And there's the railroad roof. It's a cluster area roof. It's not the standard width and dimensions of a cluster area roof. It's a little bit wider on the top section, but the roof overall is actually about a scale foot narrower, because traction cars were about a foot narrower than regular freight cars. So you just can't substitute something off your bench top into one of these kits, because it's not going to be the right width. Like Northeastern scale lumber roofing just isn't going to work unless you run it through your table saw, take a 1/4 of an inch out of it on each pass and glue it back together. And yes, I have done that. And yep, we're going to build 150. Okay, that's not too painful. Okay. The dreaded shaping the roof ends step. This is what everybody is terrified of when it comes to a cluster area roof. It's already marked, and I've taken it and actually cut this was square a couple of slides back, but I just flipped it over and followed that line, running it through my bandsaw. I don't get it, it doesn't have to be that fancy. It's a little tricky because, of course, this roof surface is not flat. It's got a little curvature to it. It's a crown to it. So you have to hold it fairly steady in your hands as you run it through a bandsaw, but it's quite doable. And if you've got a 3/8 inch blade on your bandsaw, it'll take it right through. Unfortunately, unlike some kits, this is not poplar. It's just plain basswood, so it cuts pretty easily. There's where those floor fill pieces go. They fill out the ends. Now you have a solid end on your milled flooring. And one of my favorite tools, the 4-in-hand. I use this thing for all kinds of things, but I find it really useful for shaping roofing ends, or at least on the intermediate step of that activity. The 4-in-hand is too slow. I am not patient enough to do an entire roof end with that. So I've got a 4-inch upright belt sander. It's got a 100 grit belt on it, which means it'll take that roof down to nothing in seconds. So you just kind of sneak up on it. You creep up on it. You know where you're going to go. You just kind of touch it to it, wrap it through it a few times, get close. Okay, close enough. Don't go any further because you're going to make an irreplaceable damage point achievement, which you don't want to do. Then it's back to the 4-in-hand and sanding blocks and sandpaper of various grits. But it's, you don't need to be necessarily terrified of large power tools when it comes to building a kit. I confess this is O scale, so maybe I have a slight advantage over an HO kit, but okay, if it's HO, go to 200 grit and be equally gentle. So all that shaping just removes the overhang from the upper cluster area roof. That's where that roof filler piece goes, which you have to put in there, glue it in place, carve it in, sand it down, and you snip it in, carve sand, 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 carve sand, maybe put a little filler on it, sand it some more until it gets to somewhere where you say, I'll stop here for now because I need to know where this is going to fit with the end blocks. because you really don't know how far you really want to go unless you have a reference point. That would be the actual overhang of the end blocks, because you're going to put that siding over those end blocks. So you need to know exactly where you're going. It's kind of hard to tell that until you get it assembled. And then you take the finishing stages with the sanding blocks. So let's put the box together. It's not too hard. And actually I glued the end blocks to the roof first, because it has this little ledge to align everything perfectly. So it's built in. This is your alignment point right here on the roof. And that puts the two end blocks in place. And once you have those in place, you just glue it to the floor. And I like to put an extra set of reinforcing blocks on these, because that's end grain, and end grain to regular grain is not very strong. So every now and then I'm going to drop a car on the floor in my shop, and it's a concrete floor. And I prefer to have them bounce as opposed to disassemble. And if I put the end blocks in, they don't disassemble. So that adds a lot of strength. And I'm going to stop right there, because that was the most horrific part of the build and the most challenging part. And if anybody has questions about it. So next week, we're going to put the ends and sides and underbody and other good stuff onto this car and see how much trouble we can get into. So if there's any questions, throw them at me now.
Was that a pretty popular kit back in the day or not, Martin?
I think it was actually. It seemed, well, and they made about 8 different freight car trailers and flat cars, and there was nothing else like them. You couldn't get them anywhere else.
Yeah.
The only other source of a freight trailer, well, you get brass ones, but and there weren't too many of those either. But I think it was CarWorks actually imported the reefer car as a resin casting. And there's some other kits. I think it's Midwest Hobbies. They sold some basically assembled ones that you had to finish out with all the detail parts. So you would get the shell and you'd have to add all the details.
Yeah.
Those were very, very nice. They were not cheap, still aren't cheap if you can find them. But all this stuff is out of production now, 30 years plus. So they haven't actually sold traction freight trailers in a very long time. And the new All Nation is now selling flat cars and gondolas. And I think parts for this kit, like the floor.
Yeah.
But not the roof yet, at least. Who knows?
We can always do.
Well, the roof is, that's tough. That's a tough part of it. Let's see. I assume I'm not sharing anymore.
No.
That's okay. And do we have any questions from anybody else?
Yes, I do, Martin.
Were they
the first? Yes, Pat here. Were they the first kit builders in, or did they just, were they there before LaBelle?
Well, that's okay. LaBelle never released these in O-scale.
Yeah.
So this was the only O-scale option you had. I actually asked Rick Steele LaBelle years ago to take his HO kits and scale them up to O-scale. He's got no competition out there. This is the traction community would these built ones sell fairly well on eBay. So, and the kits actually used to sell pretty dear on occasion when you could find them.
Yeah,
So,
I do have some to build right now. I haven't gotten to them yet.
What, the HO or O?
Oh, there's nothing else. Oh,
very good. Yeah, well, they're not hard. And there are some tricks to the underbody and details. You can take that about as far as you want. I
imagination.
I tend to limit that because I'm not going to tie it into the radial couplers. That's a complication that I don't want to get into with running air hose lines that actually swivel. So I've seen cars with them installed with them, but good for you. I mean, that's not I'm not going that far.
Thanks, Martin.
Yep, no problem.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, did that kit come with a template for the curvature of the end of the roof? I seem to remember the old Walthers kits gave you a piece of cardboard with the curve on it.
Nope. Well, if there was one, it wasn't in a box. I don't remember All Nation ever and Zimmer ever putting those in. You got a picture and you held it up against the picture and said, yeah, that's close. And I'm going to put a canvas tar paper roof over it anyhow. So at the end of the day, most of that's going to go away. But LaBelle does sell template pieces for their roofs.
That's
So,
nice to know.
well, but that's great if you're building the HO versions. And I have built one. I have built one HO LaBelle freight trailer. Years ago, I built the CERA freight trailer and the standard freight trailer, which comes in, is it 16 or 32 different variations? It's very standard. Yeah, that comes with flat. What was it? It's flat ends, rounded ends, doors on the ends, or no doors on the ends. So there's 4 different ends. Then there's doors on the side. It's inner, outer, door and a half, inner, outer. So mix and match it. I think that's 16 or 32. I've forgotten which it is. But I built one once, and I actually had 3 different sets of plans, and I actually had prototype plans, and I had a set of plans that were in 17/64 as well. And what I found out is every single set of plans I had was different.
Yeah.
For the standard car, that came in 32 variations, there were no standard plans either. So it was a bit of an adventure. So that's why I said, there reaches a point where you say, that looks good. That looks right. That's a good place to stop right there.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, thank you so very much. I really do appreciate it. It's going to be a great model when you get it finished. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Okay. We'll see you next week then.
Okay. Well, our featured modeler for this evening had to cancel on us. I'm sorry to say. I was looking forward to him, but he has got some legal issues that he needs to resolve and could not be with us tonight. He tells me that it's going to take him about 3 months. What's happening is he's applying for a patent, and until he gets that done and approved, he can't be here with us and share with us what he's working on. So once he finishes it, I understand 3 months or so, hopefully he'll be able to join us at that point. And I apologize that he's not going to be able to be with us tonight. Also, I want to talk about the build-alongs a little bit. We've had some of the build-alongs done with videos, and the reason that they've been done with videos for 2 reasons. one, emergency, that the person was not going to be able to be in town that night or something, or in Rick Hunter and Marie Hunter's case, their internet is just not functional, and trying to do something live like they did for the first 2 build-alongs that they did was very difficult for them. And I understand that. And for those reasons, videos are fine. But for the rest of the build-alongs, what we're going to do is do the PowerPoint presentations for the photos that can be used, but then have the people talk their way through the photos live, and allow everybody that wants to answer questions along the build-along, rather than having to wait toward the end when they may have forgotten the build-along, or it may not make as much sense. So I hope that everybody that's doing the build-alongs understands that. I think it'll be much more beneficial for the viewers that are watching, And because of that, that's why we're going to make sure that we do the PowerPoints, but have the presentations be live by the modelers. Also, I want to talk a minute about the new show that we have started on every other Thursday evening. The first one starts June the 2nd. And what these shows are about, they're called modeling lifestyles, not modelers, modeling lifestyles. And what they're about is, when I think back to the capabilities that I had early in my life, to meet some of the real people that right now I would love to be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee with. People like John Allen. It's amazing to me that I didn't take the time now or then that I would take now to actually sit down and to talk to people like that about how they did things and what they did and how they got involved in model railroad and why at the scale that they built in and why they built where they did. I would love to have that kind of insight and kind of have that personal touch or that personal relationship. So we can't do that. I can't do that anymore, and none of the rest of us can either. But we can do it with the people that are here today making those kind of differences. And they're all around us. It's amazing to me when I started this new series and started talking to people about it, the kind of response that I got. Wonder why we haven't done this in the past. Why is it taking us so long to realize the value that these people have and the knowledge that they possess? And boy, wouldn't it have been great to sit down and talk with them. We recently had one modeler die, well known to many modelers. And the thought was, gee whiz, it's too bad that we didn't do this 6 months ago before he died. Because it would have been great to sit down and just listen to him talk and watch his mannerisms and see how he handled different questions about his modeling and about the lifestyle that modeling creates in a lot of us. It's amazing to me the people that, like the three owners of Timonium's Great Scale Model Train Show, who we're going to have on one of our shows, to talk to them about why they decided to buy this from Howard Zane when Howard sold it, and what they plan to do with it, and why they spend so much time and effort trying to do those train shows in Timonium, and what they hope to get other people involved with, and how they are doing the things that they're doing for the hobby. And this is about modelers' lifestyles. It's about their modeling, no question about it, but it's also about the history that they're providing. It's about the things that they are creating for the hobby in the early part of the 21st century. And we hope to be able to document some of that, not all of it, but we hope to be able to talk to a lot of different people. And so far, no one has turned us down, and we're going along very well in getting people signed up and trying to establish the shows. We're not going to be doing this on Zoom, so you won't be able to join us on Zoom. In fact, the only way that you'll be able to participate live in any of our shows is on our YouTube channel and through the chat function. We're going to be using a new software for us, at least, called StreamYard, which is more of an interview kind of software. And it'll be limited to just the people that are going to be on the show that particular time. And it'll be live streamed. So all the shows will be live at the time and recorded live with no editing involved in them. And then we'll post them on our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling. We're going to try to come up, I understand, with a separate part of our channel, so you don't have to go through all of them to find these specific kinds of videos that we're going to be making. We hope to keep them to an hour, but if they run an hour and a half or they run an hour and 45 minutes, I frankly don't care. The software allows us that capability. And as long as we're learning and enjoying it, and the guest is telling us the information that we're trying to obtain from them, then I don't really care how long it takes to do one of these. We hope that you enjoy this new series. We think it's going to be something that modelers in the future will be able to look back on and maybe be able to at least see some of the modelers that are alive today that are making a true difference in what the hobby is all about and what we're being able to achieve in our hobby today. So that'll be on every other Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, starting June the 2nd is our first one. And we have Alan Littlefield and 3 of his friends. And that's how we're putting it. When I call up and ask a modeler to be the guest for one of the show, I ask him for 3 of his friends that will join him on the show, as well as a group of photos of his choice that he feels best illustrates his modeling and the things that he would like to see talked about on the show that he's appearing on. This isn't a show about Jim Kellow or about new tracks. This is really a show about the person that we're trying to spotlight, the modeler, the modeling that he does, the lifestyle that he lives being a model railroader. That's what this is all about. So we really hope that you'll enjoy it. If you have people that you'd like to see on the show, please send me an email, Jim Kellow, newtracksmodeling.com. And I'd love to hear from you and find out the people that you would like to see interviewed. And I'll try to make sure that we include everybody that I hear that you want to see being talked to. Another new series that we're in the process of putting together is an operations series. This we're thinking about either running on Tuesday evenings, or we'll run it on Thursday evenings in the weeks between the new show about modeling lifestyles. This is going to have Andy Kinney as the main person involved. Peter Thomas, I'm talking to him about being involved in it. And also David Schultz. David, as you know, is worked for the real railroad and recently retired. And I think having someone with actual railroad experience and knowledge involved in a show about operation of model railroad is something that could be extremely valuable and give a different flavor possibly to what is considered model railroad operations. So in putting this together, Andy Kinney said, I think we ought to ask the OPSIG people to join us. And I agreed 100%. I think that's a great opportunity for us as well as for their organization. And I told Andy that if they would like to partner with us in creating this new show, that I'm all for it. I'm 100% behind that. And since again, this is an NMRA sponsored, OPSIGs are, that would suit me fine to have that kind of involvement. Now, you heard tonight Bob talking about maybe the NMRA isn't the place for you if you're into operation. Well, I don't really know about that because I'm not an operator. I'm a model builder. That's my part. That's what I love about the hobby. Running the railroad is second or third down the road in my priorities. But at the same time, I know how important operation is to a lot of modelers. And I don't want to exclude that from the kind of of information that we're trying to provide to modelers. If you've built it and you have an operating railroad, then doing a scheme that is prototypical to a real railroad's operation. When I have operated on railroads like that, it is a different experience than simply running a railroad, running a train. It is different. And I have a great deal of respect and admiration for the people that are really knowledgeable about how to do that. So I'm really interested in trying to get this operations program off the ground successfully. Any ideas or thought that you may have to help us put it together, I would appreciate knowing about. And I'm really hopeful that the OPSIG group decides that they want to participate with us in trying to put this together and play a major role in working with us to make it all come about. So when that'll happen, I'm not sure right now. I'd like to see it sometime July, August timeframe. It just depends. We could start it probably at any time, but before we start it, we want to try to make sure that we've got the groups together that we really need to make it really successful. And that may take a little time. But I would appreciate hearing from you if you're interested in participating in some way in helping us structure this new program, because we need all the help that we can get naturally. And with that said, that's really our program for this evening. I really appreciate everybody coming tonight. As I said, first, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Most importantly, I hope you've learned something this evening. And with that said, I will turn this over to the after show host, Mr. Clark Cooney, MMR. Clark, welcome.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, let's wake things up. Woohoo! In the chat, there was a little discussion, apparently, I guess, on a comment that you made, was that the OPSIG, there is lots of operators in the NMRA. It's just, if you get one area that maybe doesn't have a lot of operations guys, you can't paint the NMRA as non-operators because it just doesn't work that way. There's lots of operations guys throughout the NMRA. It's just in certain pockets, there's more guys that are operators than builders, and that's just the way it goes in the NMRA. So, if you're into operations, hey, start a group. You'd be surprised at how fast you might be able to put a whole group together.
Hey, Clark, I think this is Phil. I think we need Bob, I think, left. But one of the things I think I got from him a real distinction between train running and operations. And I think that's really important. His comment was, I think, around saying if all you want to do is run the train around the Christmas tree, and you're not going to build and you're not going to operate, there may not be a lot of value for you. But I think you're absolutely right. I think clearly there's kind of the two sides of the NMRA, which is what I'll call the building side, and building lots of things, from layouts to everything else. And then there's the operations side, which, I think those are two facets that currently are very much part. And the OPSIG, even though it's not a formal part of the NMRA as a kind of organization, still, I know at least where we are, generally operates in coordination because you get the advantage of the NMRA insurance. That's been one of the things that we've done, is extended that over. The NMRA has extended that to the OPSIG. When the OPSIG has events, they're covered under the NMRA. They're covered as NMRA events, so the insurance covers them. So
yeah, exactly, and that's the same reason a lot of the RPM meets are balancing with the NMRA guys too, because for that insurance.
Exactly, and I think that's the whole thing. Is it's very interesting to think about that. We are a hobby of clicks.
Yep.
In terms of, you're a narrow gauge modeler, or you're a standard gauge modeler, or you're a modern modeler versus a transition modeler, and then of course we've got all the different railroads. So there's a lot of opportunities to get with folks that are kind of like-minded. But I think one of the things that I think the NMRA gives you is that exposure to a much broader group of people. And when you get in those smaller groups, especially from a modeling perspective, things tend to get limited in terms of what the knowledge base is. So I think it's a good thought process, whether you're in the OPSEG or a club or any other group. Anyway, enough said. Back to you.
No, it's the umbrella. No, I totally agree. Yep. So anyway, all right. As our sort of usual custom is there's anybody here brand new that maybe would like to say hello, introduce themselves. I don't really see anybody brand new. I see Mr. Schilling is with us. Let's see who else is with us. Paul, don't talk to him because he'll send you a new paper model. Hi, Paul. And our friend John Garrity from Down Under is with us. Let's see who else is.
Clark, if John is there and talking, we had on my build last week, he wasn't able to be on, I don't think.
Oh yeah, he could maybe come on and
if John, if you're there and you'd like to talk a little bit about, I was not able to cover, I decided I wasn't going to be able to cover it adequately. So if you're here, I'll go find the slides and share them again, and you can talk real quickly about what you showed in the my build.
Well, maybe if you find those slides,
I'll find the slides and we'll come back to it.
If he's around,
Okay.
yeah, we can.
I'm unmuted.
Oh,
so-
there's John. Okay, there's John. So I'll let you two guys work on that and present that.
And Clark, in the meantime, while those two guys are doing that, I'd like to know, one of the comments that was made tonight that caught my ear was the gentleman noted that he was working together with 2 or 3 other folks going down their MMR path to pick up their MMR sticker. I'd like to know if there's a lot of other folks that do that simultaneously, and if they do, are they working on the same sticker at the same time? In other words, are they doing just structures or just cars or just, author? What category?
Well, I can tell you I'm a product of that, along with Mr. Shergold. I don't know if Gary's still on, and another fella named who has unfortunately since passed away. The 3 of us seemed to be working on our MMR, and we were all close. And at the convention, we all 3 of us got our awards. So that was, and we talked to each other, especially Bob and I, because we were pretty close friends. But we were always working. I can't say we ever worked on the same sort of master car builder or master scenery at the same time, which was good because when I came to cars and I was working on cars, Bob had already got his, and I said to him, well, how did you do your write-up? Like what was the trick? What was the, so right. That was really a good way to share back and forth. And then he would say the same thing. Well, what did you do for structures? Blah, blah, blah. And but yeah, because the 3 of us, Bob was 222, I'm 225, and I think Gary is 224. Gary, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. Are you 224?
No.
What are you?
3. You had to ask, didn't you? I know that the numbers add up to 15.
All right. And oh no, so it wasn't, and I apologize, it wasn't you, it was the fella out in more towards Windsor. Oh, I'll have to get his name now. It escapes me. But anyway, we all worked, we all talked about things as it came along.
Well, okay, so you hit one of the things that came to my mind is it better if you're working with 2 or 3 folks together going down that path for you to work on different type of stickers or certificates and would you say?
I don't know. I don't know if there's an advantage or a disadvantage, Chris. I really don't.
Okay.
I think as long as you're talking and working on it, and then in our case, I know we had Pete Moffat at the time, who was the National Achievement Program Director, who lived in our area, so he could give us a lot of guidance. And Pete was, I won't say he was tough, but he was very fair, and you had to earn it. It wasn't given to you. So that was a big bonus, as well as having somebody at that level in the area. But it certainly helps if you got 2 or 3 guys maybe working towards the same goal.
Okay. Yeah, it might be something that we kind of just tuck in the back of our minds and throw out there to people when they mention the MMR, that they're thinking about going for it. How much did you find working with the other folks that tended to spur you on?
Oh yeah, because you get into a lull, right? You go,
right,
and guys will say, "Hey, no, come on, get your 5th card done or whatever." I'm almost done my 8th structure or whatever. So that did transfer into, rather than sit on your duff, to get moving a little bit.
Okay.
Or if, and a lot of it is a roadblock. Oh, gee, I don't know how to do something. And then you say, I'm kind of stuck on this, and I haven't really moved forward in the last week or 2 weeks because I'm stuck on this. Oh, well, here's the answer, and that really helped. I know I have mentored 2 or 3 groups when asked, and Bob, as I said, Bob, who was on earlier, asked me when he was living in California to help him, and we've talked back and forth several times, or when I've been out there, I've sat down with him and we've worked on stuff. So if you can get somebody to, hopefully a little bit more local, but with Zoom it's not too bad, that can mentor you and has gone through the process, it makes it a lot easier.
Okay, thanks.
Mark, were you thinking of Don Eastman?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, Don was my mentor, and so was Ed Hayden.
Yeah, Ed, yeah.
Yeah, they're both MMRs.
Yeah.
And I know that when I started the process, the 2 of them were there for me.
Yeah.
And very helpful. Basically, when I got started, and I found I went through the 3 the volunteers, like the author, the official, and the other one. That's where I started.
Yeah, the volunteer.
Yeah, volunteer. And then from there, it just grew into the different, you build a layout, it gets judged, you do your electrical, etc. And the 2 of them just kept at me, and I successfully got through it.
And I think Gary, and you'll probably, and Martin too, when you, and Jim, if you're still on, as you're building your layout, if you keep the AP program in mind, you really don't go, you really can't go wrong as far as getting your points. You're going to get your points, and you're going to build a better layout.
I wish I'd done that. No, because I built my layout without the AP in mind at all.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah.
I did things in a different order than most people. My first certificate was Coarse.
Right.
Strangely enough. Followed by author.
Yeah.
Followed by motive power. So, I was doing things completely backwards from what I think the average, if you go look in the back of the NMR magazine and see the new MMRs, and you see what they did and the order they got them, they don't do it in that order generally.
Yeah.
No, it's building the layout, and it's, you get all the layout stuff and maybe the dispatcher along the way.
Yeah.
You get you get electrical, civil, scenery, and maybe volunteer and some other things along the way. And they hold the construction, the model building to last.
Yeah. Actually, see, now I was like you. When I first got married, I didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a house. So what did I do? I had a little work area and I built structures.
Yeah.
And then I went on to cars.
Yeah.
And then when we had, we were able to rent a townhouse and stuff, I started a layout and and it was modular. I got my basically my track work stuff and sort of the layout part of it. And all the way through that, I'm working on the association thing. So yeah, but you tailor it to your situation.
Right.
And if you haven't got space, you can certainly build cars and structure. So
Yep. Yeah. And I took 10 years off from even working on the AP program at all.
Yeah.
So I was the contest chairman for the region. So I just didn't bother. And the layout completion of it, everything stalled. It just completely came to a stop. And I got out from underneath that albatross of a job. And I finished my layout in about 8 weeks and got scenery and dispatcher done, and I was done. That was it.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of sitting. It just had to sit down and write up all the paperwork for dispatcher. I had everything else done.
And you already had gone through the paperwork stuff, even though it's slightly different, but at least you knew sort of what was expected. I
actually sat down with one of the MMRs on dispatcher and said, explain this to me. This is another language.
Yeah.
This is another planet. What the heck does that mean? And he showed me. I was like, well, why did they just say that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's stupid. I mean, I can rewrite that into a lot simpler language.
Yeah.
With the old saying is kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with one diagram or a cartoon, and it's like, oh, that's what you want.
Yeah.
How did you tell me that?
Yeah.
I would have been done 2 years earlier. But so I actually twisted his arm and said, since you had to come over here and explain that to me, I can't be alone. Now you have to do a clinic on just what you just did teaching me.
Right.
Because I'm sure when you go to the next regional convention, you're going to have 20 to 30 people in the room who are going to be in the same spot. You accrue your hours. That's easy.
Yeah.
That other stuff, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
Nobody teaches you that.
Yeah.
Well,
that's true too. It's the same. The wiring, like, I was showing Pete Moff, and I said, oh, and he goes, what are you doing? He says, just show basic wiring. You don't have to do all these fancy. He says, we just want to know that you know what the hell you're talking about. So it's like, oh, okay. So after that, it was, fairly simple. But
so I could show them the wiring I did for my entire house in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Say, yeah, I can wire a house. That's easy.
Yeah. But anyway, that's Gary, I think you're right too. It's nice when people will mentor and help you move forward, just like Martin and I had that help too. So
as Clark pointed out, we all sign on the back of each category and the final one that we're willing to help.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yep.
And you'll probably get it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And, the probability is pretty high, but I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it's up there.
Yeah.
But and case in point, I'm in between segments on it, but we're running workshops on AP cars in my division.
Right.
So 2 weeks ago, we spent Saturday morning over at the Knights of Columbus Hall. Everybody bring your stuff, bring your tools, bring your project, bring whatever it is you're going to bring, have a donut, and let's everybody sit around and build stuff and talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, no program, no slides, no presentation. What are you doing? What are you building? What's the problem? What's the idea? Where are you going?
Let's have a discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have some fun while we're at it.
And you know, a lot of times, Rick Hunter did some of those show and tells in his division. Now he did it with his products and stuff just because it was handy. But you know, those simple clinics, and I don't even call them clinics because they're not formulated, but those simple get-togethers,
right,
are more important half the time than having an event.
Yeah, I liken it to a quilting session.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to do it again in 2-3 weeks. And then I was going to do it again with cars in August, but I got somebody who was interested and said, well, what about structures? Could I do something with the bridge? Because structures, you got to have a bridge.
Yeah.
One of the 12 has to be a bridge.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's a required element within it. It's like, and he wanted to show up and teach how to do a bridge.
Yeah.
And he has done like 3 or 4 different types of bridges. And like, well, yeah, go ahead. You want to do it? We'll change the, I can do less. You can do something. And we'll plug him into my slot. And he's going to show up, teach how to build a bridge, provide a bill of materials, bring all your stuff. I'll bring a storage tub or 2 of supplies.
Yeah.
And we'll have a bridge building party.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. John, are you ready? And Phil, are you ready?
I'm ready. I can run John, are you there?
Yep.
There you go.
Do you have a camera? If you want to, you can turn your camera on.
I'm not sure whether you're going to be like seeing my kind of fearful visage on.
Oh, can't be worse than Clark.
Can't be worse than us.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. Okay. Okay, this is me standing beside the actual incline. For anyone who's aware of the Australian modelling scene, that's Professor Kleisler over the back. Okay, some points to look at this layout. This wall here.
Hey, John, can I get you just real quickly, pull your screen down if you're on a laptop?
Yep.
Pull your screen forward a little bit. Yeah, or if you've got a box around you that's about 6 or 8 inches high, put your laptop on the box and that lets you tilt the screen forward.
Okay, hang on. I can't see my screen at present.
Okay.
So which one? Okay.
We see you there. We see you really good.
Okay. All right.
Can you see it now? Your screen?
I can see what you've got up.
Good. Good. That's all you need to. Go for it.
Okay, well, that's me standing beside the layout. I'm now considerably slimmer than I was then. Okay, for the rest of the slides, we're going to take a trip. We're going to start at the right on mine 2. And we're going to go underground briefly. We're going to come back out on mine 2. We're going to swap locos at mine 1. We're going to run around Broker's Feed onto Broker's Nose 2, where we pass the loco shed and the waterfall. Broker's Nose 1 will be the landslide. We will have a shot of the trestle. And we're going to finish up, well, we're going to the water tank. At the water tank, we cut the steam loco off and battery electric loco takes over. The battery electric loco is a small battery electric. It takes over on the loaded train, takes it up onto the dead end, and then pushes it back to the start of the incline. Okay, at this stage of the game, top left photo is Big Bat. This is a bogie battery electric locomotive. It's built on the chassis of a Barkman 45 tonner. It's O scale, narrow gauge, 1/43 scale on 16.5 mil tracks. So it goes underground down the portal between the two buildings, comes back out and finishes up on mine 2. It will cut off the trainer loaded skips, and the little green locomotive on the top right will take over on the train. That train then runs around Broker's Nose, which is the start of it, bottom left. Bottom right, we're coming up on the waterfall and the start of the loco shed. The little green loco is built on a Barkman Percy, believe it or not. And no, I didn't build it. I'm not that clever. I did do the big bat locomotive. I'll claim that one as all my own work.
Is this a 130?
Yeah, it's 016.5. So we're representing 2 foot gauge in 1/43 scale.
Okay, thank you.
Right. The trick is with 016.5, it allows you to use all the HO mechs on 16.5 mil HO track very, very easily. If I was running true scale 1/43 scale in for 2 foot gauge, I should be using 14 mil gauge track. That's just too damned hard. You've got to build your own mechanism and build your own wagons and build your own track. There's too many layers of difficulty. We had enough problems getting the incline itself to work rather than worrying about 2.5 mil on track gauge. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is at the loco shed. Borough, the little green loco, is passing the Crouse. Now, the Crouse is a Magic Trains Crouse that's no longer available. It was made in 1/45 scale by Fleischmann. So we're applying a little bit of rubber scaling here. We're using 1/45 scale as a 1/43 scale locomotive. It looks very, very close to the loco, second larger Crouse that Cornwall actually had. The loco shed was scratch built by my construction partner. It was the first structure he actually built out of plastic. Yes, we had some discussions on how to build it, and he kind of said, yeah, I think I know how to do this. He was a fabricator welder on real locomotives, so, and he's a model engineer as well. So the thing's built like a brick outhouse. Top right is Borough passing through the trees, heading around Broker's Nose. Bottom left, we've gone around Broker's Nose and we're heading into the landslide area. The tramway tracks were about 400 feet up the side of the mountain, and they ran slightly downhill from the mine to the top of the incline. In the real world, a 6-ton locomotive would be towing about 30 odd skips with a ton of coal behind on a falling grade to stop, and the loco didn't have steam brakes or Westinghouse. So the only brakes on that locomotive was a big lever and the weight of the fireman pushing down on the lever. And yes, I've actually fired that locomotive, so I know what it takes to stop it. With 30 odd wagons behind it, yes, it was possible that the train was going to be overrun by the wagon coming through behind. So every 8th axle had a sprag shoved through the spokes, which locked up the axle. And a sprag is simply a piece of 2x2 timber or something similar with a pointy end shoved through the spokes. When the wheel rotates around, it locks it up against the frame of the wagon and locks up the axle. So there was no such thing as round wheels on this layout. By the time the the wagons have done a couple of trips backwards and forwards between the mine and the incline top, there would have been some interesting wheel patterns. Okay, we're onto the trestle bridge in the bottom right. So we're approaching the end of the journey for the steam train or the steam locomotive. Next slide, please. Okay, next top left is shortly after crossing the trestle, Burra cuts off. The train is actually, we're running on level, so at least our wagons aren't going to roll away. And we swap Burra for the little orange battery electric locomotive. That's a unpowered Grant Line kit powered by an underground Ernie chassis by Bachmann. Originally, we had 44-tonner power bogies under them, the Bachmann 44-tonner single end units. They were about 10 years old when we started to get hold of them, and the quality was variable. We were able to source about 5 or 6 underground Ernies from the US shortly after, UK, shortly after Bachmann stopped making them. So we replaced the rather dodgy 44-tonner chassis with the underground Ernie chassis. Under the battery box is a whole lot of lead. So from top left, we've come, let's go across to top right. The train would come, actually, there's 2 identical shots there. I didn't realise, almost identical. The train, hang on, I've lost my train of thought. It's been derailed. Oh well. Top right. The train comes in on the right-hand track, goes up into a dead end and pushes back to the start of the incline. The start of the incline is actually under the no way sign. That's where the powered incline takes over. Bottom right is coming on to just out of shot to the right is the turnout that takes you up into the dead end, and the skips on the front track are parked leading into the incline. Is there another slide? I think that might be it.
That is it. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
Hey,
that was great.
There I am.
Yeah, you look pretty good too.
Okay. That's me done. I'll go back to lurking. Any questions?
That looked like quite an incline you had there at the beginning. What grade is that?
1 in 4, 25%.
Wow.
And yes, we run loaded coal wagons down it, and we run loaded coal wagons up it. Empty coal wagons up it. And we cheat.
So how much actual physical variation, in centimeters or whatever is across the layout?
The layout's 23 foot one way and 19 foot the other.
I'm thinking more vertical. How much vertical dimension do you have? How many centimeters of rise from the lowest point to the highest point in the layout?
Okay, let me go get a slide.
Cool. Then I'll stop sharing and let you share. Cool.
Okay. Let me go to there. This is actually at the mine. I'm going to have to kind of skip around.
Okay.
This is at the mine, one of the other entrances.
You actually have to start sharing.
Oh, hang on.
There's a green button at the bottom. And when you click, there's a little green share button at the bottom. Click on that. And that'll bring up a bunch of pictures. The upper left picture is actually sharing your screen. So if you share that, we see what you see, and it's the easiest way to share.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay,
Excellent,
go.
excellent.
Let me go
I
back
think
to
we're
the
seeing
model.
your screen. We're seeing three men on the screen.
Okay.
There you go. Yep.
I've skipped back. This is the mine entrance with two of the placeholder buildings. These buildings have now been replaced by the structures. The modeling structure here is interesting underneath. We'll cover that another time. This is the men and materials portal. The building on the left is the lamp house building. Coal mines, you got issued with your battery and lamp before you went underground. You turned your battery and lamp in when you came back to the top. And that way they realised that you're on top and not underground. That dates back to probably the 17th century. Two guys standing outside the rope store, which is one of the placeholder buildings. It's foam core with plastic galvanized iron glued over the top of it. It's now been replaced by another structure. Figures painted by one of the build team, Jeff Potter. He does a magnificent job. These are 1/43 scale die cast figures. The Crouse coming up to the landslide from the other side. Okay. Dad and Lad waiting for the train. Okay, this gives you a better shot of the layout.
Yeah, that's the incline I was talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was trying to see. That's great. That's a great picture.
That's quite an incline.
Yeah. Each module here, these two modules are 1400 mil, or about 4'3" long. This one here, with the sign against it, and the end one that's up in the air are only 4 foot long. So where we needed the extra length, we kind of added 3 inches worth onto each of the modules where we needed the extra length. On the incline itself, the track level finishes here about 100 mil, 4 inches above baseboard. And we finish up here. That's also about 4 inches above this baseboard level here. So the rise is actually probably close on, it's better than 12 inches. So the actual grade on this bit, on the actual incline, is 1 in 4 or 25%. When, as originally built, we were supposed to rise 300 over the 1200 long structure. When we went to 1400, this module got replaced with a 1400 long one. And the bottom end got replaced with the longer one as well. And we then modified this track structure. I can go back and find some of the early construction photos if you want. But yeah, we actually cheat. We're using magnetic haulage on the incline.
Okay.
For anyone who there is a YouTube up of us testing on the Friday prior to this convention. This shot was 2019 at the Australian Narrow Gauge Convention down in Geelong, which was probably around about 800-900 miles away from home base. So we loaded it on a trailer, took it down the highway 900 miles and put it together. And this is it together. This is 2019. The layout is supported on tables here with aluminium frame boxes to hold the higher level modules up to the right height. We've recently got it up on its own legs. So, and we're using tailored building or workbench supports. And they fold up as stands. So I can show you some of them if you so want. Any questions?
Yes, I have one about how does the incline work specifically?
Okay. Let me kind of dive across. Not sure whether this is going to work. Okay. I think this one will do it. That's an empty heading away. It's just passing the end of the tipple deck here.
Did you
Here's
see
the
it?
module?
Do you have magnets pulling that up, you said?
Yep.
Interesting.
The magnets are glued to a chain under the track that skates along the white styrene here.
Huh.
And there's a loaded one going down.
Would you, are they fairly, they must be fairly strong magnets then? And how'd you use your own chain, or is it a chain system, or?
It's a Tamiya educational range chain. The links are about 10 mil long, which is probably just under half inch, probably
0.4 inches.
Yeah. This is we're now on the top end module. The empties incline rises up and crosses over the top of the fulls incline heading down. So at the end of the chain run, your magnet goes around the sprocket and heads away. You bump into the next wagon and couples up. The tipple cage is down here. When this video was shot, it was that early. I don't think we had the tipple circuit working. Same one. Okay, stop. Any questions?
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, thank you.
Do you run a whole train up at a time then with the magnets, or you run the cars up individually?
We're bringing cars down individually and taking them up individually. This is all hands-free.
Yep.
So we uncouple automatically. We run downhill loaded. This is coming off the incline onto the tipple deck module starting now. The big blocks of PC board, and we're on the tipple deck here. At this stage of the game, the tipple deck hasn't been plated.
So that chain must run on a sprocket underneath.
Yes,
the layout.
it does.
Oh, and there's an electric motor that runs that sprocket.
Yep. I'm sorry, the motors are pretty noisy.
I can't hear it, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's interesting. I never. Those magnets must be pretty strong then.
Yeah. What did I do there? Weird places. Oh, not there, not there. Oops, not there. Let me go back. I'm having difficulty. I've lost you all. Okay. Now I've got to work out how to get out of it.
We just close it. You can just close it up at the
Close the
top
whole
with
thing
the
and
X.
start over.
Just close it at the top with an X. Go up to the top of that box. No, not there, not there.
Bring your arrow up slowly to the there it is right there. Just go up to the
Yeah,
X.
the one right there, that little X right up there.
The
Move your
little
arrow.
white X.
About an inch up and an inch to the right.
No.
No, inch. Go over. The X that's over to your left. To your left.
Can't see it.
It's a
Okay.
white X on a black background.
There
Right
you are.
above you. Right
Up.
above you, that white X on a black background.
Move it up. Move up your arrow.
I can't. I've got a band of instructions in the way.
Oh, you've got the sharing stuff. Just
Yeah,
grab
the
that and you
toolbar,
can
that
move it.
toolbar's in the way.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Now I've got it. Gone. Okay.
There you go. Sorry.
Now you get rid of the other one.
Now you
Okay.
can just click on your folders if you want to, or there's
Yeah.
wherever you want to look.
Okay. I've stopped sharing, so everyone's got their own screens back. Now I've got to track.
Yeah, you are stopped sharing now. I stopped you. You're all on your own.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, it'd be.
Uh,
Have you taken some pictures? Did you take some pictures during the construction of that incline?
Yes.
That might be really cool. I'll tell Jim, it might be good to have a session sometime and just walk through how that was built. Because like that could be interesting for other people who have similar modeling situations.
That'd be fascinating.
There is a whole flock of
Videos you guys have done
that we did on. Some of them are up on YouTube. I'm not sure of a quick way of finding them, but if you put caramel,
that's okay. If you find them, you can send me an email or put them up next week.
If you put Coral Colliery Incline into the YouTube search engine, you'll find the early test rigs that we did. We weren't sure whether this magnetic idea would work, so we kind of built 4 different test rigs to prove that the thing actually worked. Let me kind of go find one. And I'll show you the type of basic modeling that we did to prove it. I need to go there. I need to go there, find YouTube. I'll give you a shout when I've got it ready.
Okay.
Please carry on regardless. I'll give you a shout when I've got the thing teed up.
It's cool.
I'll share
Hey,
it with
Clark,
you.
I have to jump off and go get something to eat here before the next thing I've got to go to. So I'm going to leave you in charge, and you can help John with sharing. Just remember to turn on the sound, but at the bottom, click the optimize for video when you share.
All right. Well, why don't we wrap this up for tonight on the live streaming, and we'll just go to our sort of after show. So those who have been watching us on Zoom and so forth, thank you for watching and participating through the chat. And as always, I hope you'll come on to the Facebook webpage and actually subscribe. And we'll all talk to everybody later. So have a good night.